Hello and welcome back to From Fear to Fearless. This show is all about sharing stories of ordinary people who have done and continue to do extraordinary things despite their fear. Fear is a normal part of growth and change, but for many of us, especially for children, fear becomes a factor and we have hard time pushing past our fear. So our mission on this show, as you always know, is to share stories of others who have pushed past their fear and have done some amazing things. So this show is for parents and grandparents, uncles and aunts, whoever has, influence or have a child in their life, so that the stories we share, Malgosha, we are sharing so that they can share with them and take meaning from it, and share with their children in their life. So we have a structure. Let me explain to our audience and yourself as well. What we do is in the first 20 minutes, we talk about one of our guests' fear and how you have overcome. And then after that, we go into our wisdom circle because some parents have to leave. And then we continue our conversation where you can give tips and strategies for parents to use with their kids. So today we have our amazing guest, Malgosha, with us here. I'm going to say your last name, but I didn't want to say it wrong. Can you help me? It's
It's Ocean.
Fair Ocean. So Malgosha is a former teacher. She left her teaching career to better serve her students. For the past 4 years, she has been running her own learning success math coaching business where she helps students develop a deeper understanding of math and gain confidence to become independent learners. By leaving the classroom, Malgosha was able to focus on the individual needs of each of her students and provide them with support they need to succeed. Her goal is to help her students achieve their goals and aspiration, whether they're in high school or beyond. She gives them the tools they need to do any type of math that they desire. With her becoming a coach, Malgosha empowers her students to become successful learners and pursue post secondary or whatever they wish. So I would like to welcome her today. Thank you, Malgosha, for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, we all have our own stories of with in relationship with fear. So tell us about something that was fearful for you and how you have overcome.
All right. So the biggest fear I guess I had was, we go to school, we do a certain amount of education to become a teacher, right? So here it was 6 years, and I was all set. I was ready. I had tried different things before that, and eventually was like, no, teaching is the thing that I'm going to do. So I did the 6 years. I went in, I did some subbing before, feeling out the different schools and seeing how it is. And then I moved to Vancouver and I got my first job. And let's just say it didn't go so well. There were certain rules the school had that some of the parents didn't really like, and then it kind of fell upon the teacher to take the brunt of that. All their disappointments and stuff. So my first year of teaching, needless to say, after I finished it, I didn't know if I wanted to go back to the classroom. I was like, oh no. So the biggest fear I had was, okay, so I don't really want to do this. What am I going to do? Like, I had just spent so much time in school, my first year of teaching, and it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. It was a nightmare, actually. So I was super fearful, and I was like, what am I going to do? Go back to the classroom? I don't really want to. Find another career. So how much more schooling do I have to do? And all these thoughts are going in my head. And also, like, I just spent 6 years in school and now I'm going to be doing something else. Like, it was a really fearful time for me. But I did end up going back into the classroom. I took the summer off. I took a couple months off. Then I went into a different school. And that school proved to be challenging again for different reasons. But that year turned out to be really challenging. I learned a lot and it was all right. But then the next year when I wanted to go back, things changed. And then again, it was the same roller coaster of, do I want to actually do this in a classroom? What else am I going to do? And
Let's
again, the
touch
fear
on
cycle.
that a little bit. Sorry to interrupt you. Can
Oh,
you
no.
touch on that a little bit when you say it's difficult and hard for you as a teacher? Because sometimes parents don't see the other side of the teacher side, right? Because, you got teachers are always in the middle.
Yes, yes, and
Yes.
we
So,
are definitely even more so in the middle now, where we're kind of the all the responsibility falls on us. So if the student's not doing well, it's our sole fault for it, and we either have administration that, wants to see the whole story and back us up, or we have administration that kind of jumps on the bandwagon and also blames us for it. And it just depends which schools you're in. This doesn't mean that it happens all the time. It's just that, we try really hard with the resources that we have, but we're always asked to do more and more and more and given the same amount of time. And so that's a challenge as well, because then I want to help all my students. I want them to be successful, but then I'm being pulled in all these different directions to do all these different things that don't really have anything to do with educating the student in the subject that I signed up for. And it's great for students to have options, but what would be greater is better is if they had other teachers or other specialists that come in to do that. And so I just felt like I was just being pulled in so many different directions. And then I was being blamed for some things that weren't actually in my control. Because if it was in my control, I wouldn't be blamed for it, because I would be able to help in the way that I wanted to. So I felt that my passion, which is helping students understand math, because I used to not understand math and I struggled and I hated it, and my self-esteem was in the very, very low with that, no confidence and stuff. So I wanted to help students specifically with their confidence in math and understanding it, so that they can go home, they can do their own homework, and they can feel success, right?
yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. And then, so the fear is, do I stay? What do I do? And is it because you couldn't offer the way you wanted to offer the teaching,
Yeah,
because you weren't able to give them? Is that what was happening?
yeah, that's what was happening, because like all I wanted to do was get students to a place where they felt comfortable with math, where they felt confident with it, and where they would go and try different things. But when I was pulled in all different directions, I wasn't able to provide that. And so then the fear was, I did all this schooling, I really wanted to help them, but I wasn't able to help them in that way. And so I was scared, like, what am I going to do? How can I do that? Is there a career even for me to be able to do that? Because that's what I want. I want students to feel the way I felt when I finally overcame that fear of math. And when I finally became confident, and when I was like, no, I will try whatever I can to solve this problem. If it doesn't work once, I'll try a different way. So that's really what my life's passion is, I guess, in my career, is that. So the fear was always, if I can't give that to my students, then I'm not being effective as a teacher, and I'm not being effective as an educator.
So when that didn't happen, why not become a tutor? I mean, you can work one on one.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I did. I did become a tutor on the side. So while I was teaching, I was like, well, I will tutor because, I want to help students in that way. And tutoring was fine. It was okay. But I found that when I would tutor, it was kind of like, I would go for that hour, I would leave, and then that was it. And I didn't know how the student was doing afterwards or anything like that. And then I would come back the next week. And also, I never knew what they were doing in school. So every time I came, it was like, surprise, here's what you're doing. And then I would have to be like, okay. Yeah, okay, I can do this. Okay, let me quickly switch over into what you're doing. And afterwards, I did leave teaching. And then I was thinking of starting a tutoring business. But I had one particular student that deterred me from tutoring, because I also realized that's not the career for me. So I was helping a student do something in math, and I could tell, for instance, they weren't getting exponents. And within the question, there was exponents. So I said, hey, let's take 5 minutes here. I'll just quickly show you the exponent rules, and then we can apply them. And the student told me, I'm not here for you to do that. I'm here for you to help me with my homework. in that moment, I was like, but I don't want to help you with your homework. I want to help you understand math so you can do your homework. Because on the test, I'm not there. You know, they have to do it themselves. So I don't want to foster dependence on me and I just help them write the homework. Then they go to a test and they don't know what they're doing. So in that moment, I realized, yeah, tutoring isn't the fit for me.
No, you couldn't deliver what you wanted. Now so you were at a place where you couldn't deliver what you wanted in the classroom, and also I think you have mentioned before that you were pulled to do other subjects which you weren't even
Yeah,
trained for, which is
absolutely. Well,
so
absolutely. It's a weird kind of system that they have here where they lump math and science together. So if you can do math, you can do science, but they're two distinct subjects. And where there is a little bit of math in science with graphing and maybe in electricity, calculating things, like science is its own beautiful subject with a whole bunch of stuff. So I was also feeling, like I was experiencing the failure of being a science teacher because students would ask me questions and I wouldn't be able to answer them because it was a new subject for me as well. So I
you're
relied
like, wait,
heavily
let
on.
me get the book, let me read the book.
I was like, so every time I would go in, I would study for like 2 of the classes ahead of time, and then and I was praying that they wouldn't ask me like a question I hadn't read in the book yet. And I don't think that that's an effective way of teaching students. Like, I want the students to get all the information they want to get and they're craving to get, not just like, here, I will tell you these certain things and that's it. Don't ask me any questions about it. Don't ask me beyond this subject, or like something advanced, just this one. In math, I can definitely do that because that's my specialty. But in science, I was like, I don't know how many times I would have to tell the students, okay, well, let's do a Google project and look it up, or I'll get back to you the next day. And I
Yeah, it's
didn't
not fair
feel,
for you, it's not fair for you, or it's not fair for them. And I also find that when the teacher doesn't know their subject and if they're not expert in it, or like it, the subject, they can induce fear. While we're talking about fear,
yes.
like my fear of not knowing can transfer to the child that I'm working with.
Oh, absolutely. And the doubt also transfers, right?
Yes.
Students already, when they're learning things, they have doubts on their abilities, anyways. So if I
Yes.
have doubts about how I'm teaching it and how I'm answering it, that definitely transfers over to them. And then it doesn't, like open up their mind and broaden their their perspective or wanting to like gain more knowledge and learn more. It stops them right there. So then they're like, okay, that's all I can know. And so I couldn't give them the, what's it called, the creativity or their thirst for knowledge, because kids want to know stuff. They do.
Yes.
Like, since they're super small, they ask a million questions about everything. And I wanted to give them a million answers. But then when you're thrown into a subject you know nothing about, I would tell the administration, I was like, please hire a science teacher, please
Yeah.
hire someone. Like, I cannot, it's not fair for them, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely, absolutely. So now here you are, could be a very good lesson for parents to teach kids. Like sometimes kids go into a career that they're like disappointed that this is not what I thought it would be. And now here you are. How did you overcome the situation? What happened after?
Oh, yes. So I was fearful, and what am I going to do? So, yeah, I did the tutoring route, and that didn't. And then I just so happened to be on the internet on a place called Craigslist, and I saw this lady who was saying that she's holding seminars to help people become math coaches. And I was like, well, I'm math coaches. Maybe that's a different word for tutoring, you know? So I got in touch with you, and to be fair, the first time that I did get in touch with you, I was looking to work for someone, right? Because that's what we're always taught. We're always taught, like, you do your education, then you go into a job where someone hires you. Nobody says like, hey, you should be an entrepreneur and find your own thing. So when I came to you the first time, I thought like, oh, it's not a job interview, but you're going to show me what the job is, and then I can have an interview after and I work for you. And you're like, no, 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 no. I'll help you build a business. And so the fear again came in, like, what? Build a business? I don't know anything about business. I don't know how to do this by myself. And so then I backed off. I was like, thank you very much for the information. That was great, but no way, I'm going to go work for someone else.
Mm.
So I ran from that because I got scared. Like, I don't know how to run a business, and I don't know if I'm ready. But then when I did go into the tutoring realm and I went and I worked for a smaller company and the student said that, I was like, you know what? I don't think that I'll ever be able to work for someone the way that I want to work and help students. And so then out came the search in my email for your email. I was like, please don't let me have erased it. Please let it be there somewhere. And then I remember I wrote you like an essay
Yeah.
explaining why I didn't join, but why I'm ready now and I want to do it. And I was scared. I was in fear the whole time I was writing you, you know. But what drove me past that fear was that I needed to do something different. And if I keep trying to do the same thing that I'm doing, the fear is I'm not going to help students how I want, and eventually I'll just find some career I'm unfulfilled in, but I'll still do it. Um, and then the new fear was I'm going to go on this new adventure, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. Is it going to be successful? Is it not going to be successful? And another huge fear was, what if it is successful? I mean, we
Mm.
always talk about fear of failure, but there's like the real thing, fear of success. And it's a funny thing because you think like, oh, I'm going to be successful. Why would you fear success? But it's a big responsibility when you are successful because then you have to keep doing this for a number of years or forever. So then I went into that. But I mean, I just kept telling myself that this is going to work. This is going to be what I want it to be. And just dove right in and said,
Yeah.
no matter what happens, the worst that can happen is maybe like I'll learn a whole bunch of new things, maybe get a couple of students, but at least I'll have that and then I can do something with it. But then it turned out so much better than I expected.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. I wanted to ask that fear of success is a real thing, as you said. And I think it comes from imposter syndrome. They think there's a connection between both of those because then you have to be really good at it, right? And then you say, am I good? Am I the person? Do I really have? Do I really have the thing to teach kids to understand math? Maybe I don't. And what if my
Yes.
success becomes then a failure? Like it's like a cycle, right? We all of us go through this, not just and our children too. Kids
Oh,
do that too.
yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely a real thing. But I overcame that fear in tutoring when I started tutoring. I think tutoring helped me to overcome that particular one because when I went into tutoring, I was like, but I have to know everything, every tiny thing in the curriculum, you
Mhm.
know? And then I was like, well, now I have to prepare for everything. But then also I was like, I don't have time to prepare for everything. You know, I'm in university doing education. I just have to do it. And so I
Mhm.
just dove in, and then that helped to be like, oh, I don't have to be prepared for everything. I can learn on the on the job learning. And so same with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I always ask these questions to everyone. Thank you for sharing your story. That is amazing. Like your kids are never stuck in anything we choose, we're never stuck unless we allow our mind to get stuck in it, right? It's always
Absolutely.
possible to change, which is what happened to you. You never let it, keep you stuck. You want it and you got it. Now you're working with students in a capacity that you always wanted. So, what would you tell your younger self about fear?
What I would tell my younger self
Yeah.
is that I'm the harshest critic of myself. Like nobody else is the one who's going to make me feel worse than I am going to feel. And
Mm.
so, a lot of the times when we have fear, we think like, well, what are people going to think? If they see that I tried something and I didn't do it. Um, but more importantly, we're the worst critics. So why not change me being the worst critic into the best critic? Where, like, if other people can do it, why can't I do it? And that's how I did my math degrees. Let me tell you, in high school, I didn't do the best in math. So when I was like, let's do a math degree, then I would tell myself at that point, like, other people did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't try, you don't know what awesome things you can do. And you know what? If you fail, that's okay because you still learn. The biggest thing is no matter what you do, what you try, whether you're successful at it or whether you fail at it, you always learn something from it. And then you can take what you learned and apply it to other things. So that's the biggest thing I would tell myself is like, go ahead and try. You know, if it works out great, everybody's going to be like, oh my God, how did you do it? Congratulations. You know, you'll be happy. And if it fails, you can just like quietly not tell anyone that you tried and you failed because it's nobody's business, right?
Yeah, you learn from it. Always you're learning from it. There's
Oh,
so
I'm
much valuable.
constantly,
Yeah.
constantly, I'm still learning from it. And
Yes,
how
thank
to,
you. That is a great advice. It's absolutely important to, I think we're our own enemy and we are the one who stop us from doing. No one else can ever stop you, right? You're the only one who can stop you, but we blame others. So thank you for that message. I'm just going to wrap up so that those of you who
yeah,
have to leave, thank you for sharing and thank you, Malgosha, for being here. And if you have to go, thank you for tuning into our show. We will go live again every Wednesday at 11 a.m. PST. If you're interested in making learning easy for your child, please book a free Clarity coaching call at learningsuccessacademy.com. Until next time, see what's on the other side of fear. Let's ignite and inspire children to push past their fear and make fear not a factor for them. So, Malgosha, let's continue into the wisdom circle. Here, what we do, Malgosha, is just share some strategies, tips. We talk about, because we're talking about math.
yes.
Now, you also know, and I also know that children who were caught in the COVID lockdown and the, you know, that the school closure and stuff, they have lost a lot of learning time. Even though they did learn online, it's a different format, and children need time to adjust. And during that time, we lost significant, and then teachers needed to adjust as well because they never taught at online platforms.
Yeah.
But we did it, which is great. We're not here to blame anyone. But right now, I'm seeing so many parents calling me. It doesn't matter English, science, math, they're all behind at least 2 to 3 years of their grade level. So, with
Mhm.
math, what are you seeing? Because I know you focus on math.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of gaps in students' learning. So it's almost like some of the students, when the pandemic happened, whatever grade they were in math, whatever level, it was almost like it was put on pause, you know, and then now they're coming back full time in the class. The expectation is that they're all caught up and they know how to do everything, and a lot of them don't because they have their little, maybe they had a little gap and now it's just opened up way more, and there's no real like easing into the whole classroom thing. It's just, it's like it almost never happened that they went online. While some students were okay with being online and they were more independent and they could learn the way that it was happening, a lot of students were like, I didn't know what was happening for that year and a half. You know, they were teaching us stuff. I don't know what was happening. They were telling me to do my homework. I didn't know how to do my homework. And so now more than ever, parents are coming and they're seeing exactly how big this gap is when students are starting school.
Yeah. And that's what most parents, even listening to us right now, if you have a child who's struggling and it's really not their fault because as you said, we haven't helped them ease into the situation, ease out of it or ease into it. We didn't do both of them. We kind of took it out, took them back in, put them back in as if never nothing has happened. And we want to catch them up. The catching them up is not the most important. It's to social emotional skills and how they're feeling mentally, right? It's affecting them to learn as well,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I mean, their mindsets, you know, mindset is actually key to everything. How you think about everything is the result that's going to happen. So if the students go into the classroom and they're like, oh my God, I don't understand, you know, I missed a year and a half of this stuff, that's how it's going to come out in. And, you know, part of what Learning Success Coach does and what I do is I help students to change that mindset to be like, okay, that right now that's how you're feeling, but let's switch some of the wording and let's switch some of the mindset of like, okay, I don't know this yet, and let's work on it. and whatever it is that students don't understand and don't know, there's no shame in it. I never, shame students or make them feel embarrassed or judge them like, oh, you should already know this. It's always like, where are you? I'm going to start where you're at. If you have a question about fractions and you're in grade 10 and you should know fractions, that's okay. Let's go over that. Let's fill in some of those gaps. Let's put them down so that you can feel more confident. And then little by little, you kind of chip away at the doubts and everything. And then they start, feeling better about themselves. They see some success, they start feeling better, they get more motivated, then they want to come, and they want to ask questions. And so it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, most definitely not. Because it is, a year and a half, or it could have been even longer that the student struggled. But it is definitely, we can work on it, and definitely we can overcome it. I mean, I see changes all the time in the students that I have. So
Yes. And what do you see the most with your students? What is it that they are afraid of within the math? Is it them missing, or is just they're missing the foundational skills? What is it that they're missing mostly?
So sometimes it's definitely missing the foundation skills. And definitely math is a unique subject because it builds upon itself. So it's not like each year is independent from the other year. If you don't know how to add and subtract, I mean, good luck through your whole entire math career, because you need to know that. So there's definitely gaps in the foundations for sure. What also is missing is trying to do a question without actually fully understanding it or even knowing what to do. Sometimes students are afraid to put pen to paper because they're like, well, I don't want to write down the wrong thing. So they're not even going to try or like experiment with what they can do. And I find that that's a huge thing, because math isn't about writing the right answer all the time. Math is about problem solving. And how do we solve a problem? We try different ways of doing it. And if we don't succeed the first time, we try a different way and see if that, but that fear, the students have that fear, where they're unsure and they don't want to try anything. So that's another huge thing that I see that is missing. And then sometimes the lack of motivation. They have no more motivation because they're just like, I'm so far behind from the time that I haven't been doing math or that we were online that I don't even want to bother. And then that turns into a whole different conversation to have with the student, because that can be turned around as well.
Absolutely. So with what you do as a learning success coach, let's just go back and explain to parents like what's the big difference between tutoring and what you do, because it seems like you do help them with math, right? So what is the difference so they understand?
So the biggest thing I can say is, with tutoring, and I've done it before, mostly you're helping students with homework. So whatever their homework is, that's what you're helping with. There may be some concepts within math that you may explain a little bit, but you're basically like a homework helper machine, you know? Whereas as a learning success coach, I don't actually help students with their homework. I help them understand the math. I help fill in the gaps. I help them understand the math so that when they go to do their own homework, they can do their own homework. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we want. Like, I'm not going to be there to write the test with the students and give them prompts and all that stuff. We want them to be independent, because when they do write those quizzes and tests, because that's how they're assessed, they need to be able to do it on their own. So what better way can I help them than to foster that independence, to have them understand the math so that they can try different things and they can succeed. And also, I'm there for them 24/7 for the whole year. So there's no gaps. They can always reach out to me, which I think is really helpful, because sometimes you're sitting and you are doing your homework and you have like a question, but you don't know who to ask, and they can always ask me. As a tutor, not really. I wouldn't, you don't really communicate with students in between your sessions. But as a coach, my phone is constantly, going off with students' questions. And in turn, when the students are able to ask the questions, they get more motivated and they want to do more. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, my
Sometimes
biggest
it sounds like they might be disturbing you, or you're giving so much, but it's not it, because when they start doing that, that's when you're succeeding. They're
yes,
ready to fly on their own, and that makes you and me happy, because we're like, yeah, now the child's asking a lot of questions, that mean they're clicking
yeah.
click.
Yes, yes. That means that the thinking is happening. That means
Yeah.
that they've done the first two steps and they're stuck on the third one, rather
Mhm.
than they're stuck looking at the
Comfortable.
question and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And
Or
then once
not even
they,
starting it, right? And not even starting
exactly,
it. Right.
absolutely. So
Yeah, go
now
ahead.
here, when they text me, it's not that I walk them through the whole entire question. It means that if there's five steps to a question, they've gotten to step three and they're like, something just didn't work. And then I write back and I say, oh, you added incorrectly. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then I'm done helping them because they can do the rest.
Trust. Yeah.
And you can see that motivation coming from them. You can see their pride as they're succeeding, and you can see their confidence going up and up and up. And that's what I want, is for the students to find that
Yeah.
independence, that confidence, and the self-esteem to come back. We're like, yeah, I can do this. What
Yeah.
else can I do in life?
Yeah.
Because it
They,
transfers
they
over.
they have a coach in their corner, like by their side,
Absolutely.
while
Oh
they
yeah.
play the
Yeah.
game. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then I wanted to ask you, so if I'm a parent, and I have a high school student, I know you work with a lot of high school
Yeah.
kids. What should I do as a mom or dad if they're struggling? Like, should I try helping them? Like, what, it seems sometimes hard. I have a 16-year-old myself. Helping my own son is different than helping somebody else's. I've been a coach for
Yeah.
24 years. It's much different. So tell me about that. What can we do as parents? What's the best way to handle it?
So I can definitely, as a parent, I know that we want to help our kids, right? We want to. So if we see them struggling, we want to be the first ones to jump in there and to help them. However, I found, and I'm not saying this is like absolutely the truth, but what I found is that when parents do try to help their students, it changes the dynamic of their relationship. And sometimes it's not in the best way because the parent is the parent, and then all of a sudden the parent becomes a teacher. And I mean, my mom was a teacher, so she would teach at school, then she would come home and try to teach the four kids. I was like, Mom, you're my mom, you're not my teacher, leave me alone. And I was very resistant, So when she's like, "This is how you did," I was like, "I don't want to listen to you. I really want to know this, but you're my mom. I don't." So that's what I find is that some students, just because they want to keep that relationship with their parents and they want it to be distinct, they have a teacher at school, that's their teacher. They have a parent at
Mm,
home. And so it's nice when they come to me, for instance, because I'm not their parent and I'm not going to act like their parent. What I'm going to act like is their coach. And
mm,
so then they open up more to me. And the cool thing is that when we have the clarity coaching calls sometimes, the parents are telling me what's going on with the student and the problems they're having and all this stuff. And then I make a connection with the student and I ask them, and then all these things start coming out that they haven't really told their parents, not because they're hiding it. It's just
mm,
because the relationship is different. And I'm there specifically for the math part. Then
mm,
things start coming out. And then the parents are like, oh, well, I didn't know that was going on. Right. So I can take things, the students will talk to me about certain things that they won't talk to the parents about in terms of what's going on with their math and everything.
yeah.
And so it works, it like together, we all work together, which is great, in that the parent is the parent, I'm the math coach, I deal with that part. And then all together we can foster like the student to be an awesome person in academics, but also an awesome person just in life. So I would I tell parents, the effort is great that you want to help them, but sometimes it's better if somebody else comes in who's more of an expert and who can just be there for that thing. And then you get to just be the parent of the person, of the child,
Hmm.
and
True.
then keep that nice relationship and not have those like fights that I used to have with my mom. Like, stop being a teacher to me. You're not my teacher. You're my mom. I'm not doing this.
And also I don't know if your mom was like this, but my son, I have way different expectation because he's my
Oh,
son.
yeah.
Like, there's that expectation piece, and also the patience that I have for other people's other kids that I work with is always tremendously great. With my son, they tend to be very, very little short ones. So it's that too, and I think it's for everyone because we always have this way of talking to our kids because we are on the authoritative level with them sometimes, and even if you have that friendly tone with your son or daughter, then they won't listen to you because then they now think you're funny and you're joking. Stop, we don't do this. Why are you teaching me, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So I think patience is important too, right? That's one of the biggest thing as well.
Yeah, and I mean, as a parent, right? Like you're with your child a lot.
Yeah.
And so, maybe the most important thing when you're with your child is to build a really great relationship that your child can come to you and can talk to you about different things that are going on in their life, and then you as a parent decide whether you can help them with that or whether you'll get someone else to help them with that. Not because you need it and you don't have the time to do it, but because there's maybe someone better suited to do that part, and then you can stay the parent and you can stay having a nice relationship. Because I mean, like I used to argue with my mom all the time about her being a teacher at home. I was like, just be my mom. She's like, but you need to know this. We're going to sit down and do this for 8 hours. And I was like, oh my God, just be my mom. But if I had someone else to come in and just help me with the part, which, some of the math part, then that would have been great because then I could still do the fun stuff with my mom or have that relationship with my mom, but then go to someone else and get that other thing. Because also as a kid, you're also trying to kind of impress your parents as well a little bit. So if you show them that you're not good at something and how bad you are at something, then you feel that your parents gonna like maybe love you a little bit less or maybe judge you for it or
Mm.
something too. Because I used to think, well, I used to think I was like, you know, um,
That's
and
a
and
very
it's
good point, Malgosha.
yeah,
That's a very good point. I never brought that up. Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, if you show your mom or dad that I'm not good at it, two things happens, I think, right? One is that they're gonna judge me, or they're gonna start worrying and they're gonna be on my case,
yes, yes.
right?
So if I say, I'm not, and then when they are on your case, like literally they're on your case every day. Did you do your math homework? Did you do this? Did you do this? Do you need help? Let me sit down with you. And yeah, it gets tiresome
You can't
because
breathe.
I'm like, but just like let's get me help somewhere else so I can fix that, and then we can do something else with our time rather than that. And I know that like parents, for the
Good
most
intention.
part,
It's good
very good
intention.
intentions, and they don't intend to like judge or anything like that. But as a child, when we're developing, we think that everyone is looking at us and everyone is judging us, and our parents are the ones that for a while we want to impress the most and we want them to praise us. We don't want them to go the other way. So if we give them another excuse to not go in the praising direction, it takes a toll, a toll on the student. Whereas if a student comes to me and admits that they don't know that how to do something, that's okay because I'm not here to judge, I'm just here to help. And then when they do have the successes, I always tell them, go tell your parents. And then they're like, yeah, I told my parents, and my parents are so happy. And like that's a relationship that
Yeah.
parents and kids want to have with each other, where they're like, celebrating successes rather than sitting in the failures and like trying to wrestle with them. There's other things they can do that with. But with math here, just throw it onto me and I'll take care of it.
Other
I'll have a
thing I was
happier
gonna
child.
say, the other thing I was going to say there is
Mhm.
that also the comparison part, just before we leave that point, because we're giving
Mhm.
some tips to parents, right? The other thing that I used to be afraid of is if I say I don't know my math, or if I say I need help to my parents, then they're going to be like, look at your brother or look at your sister. They know everything. Why don't you know? And you're like, oh,
Yes.
why did I say to them now they're in constant comparison. Why don't you and then they won't let you spend time on anything else. They'll be like, why don't you study? You're doing really poorly. Why don't you go do your work all the time? So kids do pick up on those things, and then
Yeah.
next time if my mom asked me how was school, I'm like, really good, really good.
Yeah. Excellent. Better than my sister.
Yes, I fixed it. I
So
fixed it.
magically, in 2 classes, I'm an A
I
student.
fixed it. I'm no good now. Don't help me. So we have to be mindful, right? We're joking, but you
Yeah,
have to be, as a parent, I have to be mindful that I do not compare my when my son or daughter opens up to another kid or somebody in the family or to myself. Sometimes we say, oh, that was so easy to me, why isn't it easy for you? Just that statement alone can shut a child back down into their space and think like, okay, I must be really really dumb at this, because obviously my mom gets it, my sister gets it, my brother gets it, rest of
yeah,
the class gets it, only me, I don't get it.
yeah,
So now what's wrong with me? Like that's how I grew up in life too, right? That was my question. What's
yeah.
wrong with you? Why don't you fit in? Why aren't you doing math like that? Because I, every time I opened up, I had something like that happen to me. So we have to be very protective of that, right? As
Yeah,
parent.
yeah. And so, sometimes when they come to you in a subject that they don't know, those kinds of things start to creep up, right? But
Yeah.
if you have someone else who does it, I mean, it never comes up with me because, for me, this is what I do. And I want to instill that confidence and independence in the students. And so wherever they are at, that's where they're at. And I tell them, like, you don't have to apologize to me that you don't know how to do it. You don't have to feel bad. You don't know how to do it? Awesome. Then let's start there. Let's start at the point you don't know, and then let's keep going forward. And I don't, compare them with my other students because everyone is unique and individual and they learn at their own pace and they learn, some students will be really great at this unit, whereas other students will be really bad at that same unit. And it just is so individual. That's why, like,
Yeah.
in a classroom, it's so hard to reach all the students because you have to treat them all the same. Like they're on the same level and they learn exactly the same. Whereas when I'm one on one, I get to do exactly what they need to be successful. No judging, no nothing like that.
Yeah.
Just
And also
let's.
it's holistic and you do individualized plan with them, right? As a learning
Oh yeah,
success coach, you're always creating individual plans. You're
yeah,
personalizing to their way of thinking, because we work so much with the brain science and the neurolinguistic part.
yes.
So you're always in tune with what they're saying to themselves, because what you say to yourself reflects your marks.
Oh, and it comes out in your work. If you're doubting yourself, you're not going to write anything down because you're
No.
going to be like, is this right? No, it's not right. So I can't write it down. I'm not even going to try. So,
Yeah.
and that's the
Let's
thing. Oh, I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say, and that's the thing with the neurolinguistics and everything like that. It plays a huge part. So it's like a holistic thing. And it also translates into other realms of their life as well. When we
Yeah.
work with students in this way, it translates them into trying new things that you would think that they would never try in their life because they have this doubt. All of a sudden they're like, well, I can try this and I can do that.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
those little steps, but leads to a bigger success. I was going to say the clarity coaching call is what it's there as we wrap up here. Is the fact that you give that clarity coaching call is to really study what is going on between the parent and the child and how their dynamics is, and what is it that the parents are looking for and what is it that the child is looking for. We bring that clarity to them, and through that, it's we we do this so that the child and the family, the parent, can have obviously the clarity to make a decision on what is the next step. Because even if they're struggling at home right now
Mhm.
and you're trying to fix the problem, but if they're having doubts, how do I fix this, where do we go, what's the next step, is this a tutor thing, do I ask a teacher, do we hold them back 1 year because they're failing so many aspects of math, not only math but other subjects, because there's a lot of failing that's happening right now in lots of kids life because of the COVID loss. So all of this, the clarity coaching is what you give, and it's free, you offer from your heart,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Some parents have had breakthroughs within these clarity coaching calls where they're like, I had no idea that because you were struggling in school, you're struggling with your friendships, and sometimes you sit alone at lunchtime because you don't want to hang out with your friends because they all got a good
Mm.
mark and you got a bad mark, and so they're icy. Some of the things that come out of the clarity coaching calls, they're really illuminate how, it's not just a problem with that subject, how a problem with a subject can, like a domino effect, um, affect other parts of the student's life and in different ways. And so, even if the person doesn't sign up with me, at least when they have the clarity coaching call, some of them are like, oh, wow, there are some serious issues that have come out of here that we didn't know about that now we have to like address.
Yeah.
And then most of the times, they're like, how do we, okay, how can you help? They ask me like, well, yeah, I want you to help because this seems to have turned into this like bigger issue than we even knew it was. So can you help with it? And then I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to help because then it is a holistic approach. It's not just the math that's going on, it affects other things. And so when I come and I help, I do concentrate on math, but I concentrate on other things as well to holistically make the student a better student in general. And then it falls onto their social and their time management and, decisions that they're going to make in the future. So it's really a lovely, lovely, lovely process that we do here as learning
Yes.
success coaches.
Yes, thank you for that gift. And if you want to book a call like that with any of our Learning Success coaches or Malgosha, you can go to learningsuccessacademy.com and I will forward the message to Malgosha for math coaching. You do younger kids too, right? Any level, right? You go from younger kids
Yeah,
all the way to first, second year university.
yeah, I do first year university
Per-
calculus, which everyone's like,
Perfect.
whoa, that's scary. Yeah, and then as young as grade 5.
Great. Yeah, awesome.
So,
Thank you. Do you want to add anything else to the parents who are watching Malgosha about math and the learning loss and what's happening in their family? Anything else?
I mean, all I can say, is that if you're finding that your child is struggling and it is a subject thing, I mean, book a clarity coaching call. If you book a clarity coaching call, some things may come out that you don't know are happening. And then also you may see that, the child connects with the coach that's there, and that will be a great relationship for them to have yet another person, on their side helping them be successful.
Yeah.
So nothing's going to happen unless you give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing happens if you don't do anything about it.
Nothing happens, and in fact, like it's just going to get worse. So you're not
Yeah.
losing out by coming to the call and just getting the clarity, because it's a clarity coaching call for me, but it's also a clarity coaching call for the parents, and it's also a clarity coaching call for the student. So everybody gets a clear picture of what's going on and then
Yeah.
what needs to happen after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And love the word you used, breakthrough. Definitely you'll have a breakthrough. You go ahead with it or not, it's not the point of the meeting. It's about you having the parent and the child getting clarity on what's going on and where they are at is the most important part of that. And that leads your relationship very in a very powerful way, right? At the end of the day. So thank you so much, Malgosha, for being
Thank
here
you.
today. I really appreciate you, and I'm so honored that you did decide to take the program and you
Oh,
did go
me
back to that old email and the universe connected us through a
too.
Craigslist. So I'm so thankful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Craigslist, where all the
Me
other
too.
places, right? Yeah.
Of all the
But we did.
places,
Places,
Craigslist.
Craigslist. Here we are after 4 years. So thank you so much. She does amazing work. All of the students Malgosha touches, she leaves them in a better place than she found them. And they love her because she makes them understand math and makes it fun for them. That's the most important thing about math is making it fun because it is a dry subject and it has lots of rules. So you have to learn them. I always joke around with my students. I wish I could tell you I made them, but unfortunately, I didn't. I learned it before you. So we both have to learn it. So thank you, Malgosha, for your, dedication to making learning fun and learning math fun and enjoyable. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank
staying
you.
with us for the Wisdom Circle. And thank you for tuning in to our show. And until next time, see what's on the other side of fear, and make sure you share some of the stories and see what's happening with your child at school. Talk to them. Communication is the number one thing anyone can do with have with their kids to figure out what is going on. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And if you're interested in making learning easy and fun, you can book a call at Learning Success Academy. And if you want to book it with Malgosha, I will connect you as well. And until next time, as I said, see what's on the other side of fear. I'll see you guys next week.
Mhm.
Bye.